Sell your 200 horsepower superbike, go and buy one of these. It is one of the best things I've ever ridden on the road. Okay, maybe that's going a little bit mental, but I've genuinely had one of the most entertaining days riding in a very, very long time on this 77 horsepower, 8.5 grand Kawasaki. It has been phenomenal. Now, ever since Kawasaki announced they were going to do a 4-cylinder ZX-4RR, I have been frothing with excitement to get out and try it. I was gutted that Chad got the call up to go to Califat for a play, but since then I have been just teased with little snippets of how much fun he had. So finally, today we got the chance to get this little weapon out for a thrash on some of my favourite roads. And boy, it did not disappoint. Ah, proper little screamer. Chad had a mega time on track and he's been telling me how good it was. I've been absolutely dying to get my hands on this thing. Now it's cold, wintry, slippery roads, but it's probably not a bad... It's brilliant! It's not a bad way to test a bike like this, because when I had my 400 on the road, that was my bike. It wasn't like I had a plaything for sunny days. That was my motorcycle. In fact, that was my mode of transport. Didn't have a car. I just rode it everywhere. School, work, dates, out to meet my mates. So it didn't matter if it was -5 and snowing or 25 and sunny. That was what I rode. For the last few years, manufacturers have been making small capacity sports bikes again. We've got things like the RC390 from KTM, Kawasaki's own little 300s and 400s have been around, Yamaha, Honda, they've all been making these kind of smaller capacity sports bikes, but I'll be honest, everyone that's come out has been a bit of a disappointment to me. I love small capacity sports bikes, but what I grew up loving was proper 400cc superbikes that came from Japan. Things like the CBR 400, the Honda NC30, the FZR 400, the GSXR 400, and of course Kawasaki ZX-4R 400. Now these weren't cheap superbikes, these were just small versions of the best superbikes. So they had the best suspension you could buy, they had the top frame technology, the top chassis technology, good engine technology. They were proper small capacity superbikes. They were expensive. Quite often they cost the same as a 600. Sometimes they cost more. So they were really special little bikes. And this new generation has never been anything like that. They've never been anywhere near the top level of technology available. And that's because they're not built for the Japanese license market or whatever the specific quirk was that gave us those old 400cc bikes. They were built for countries like India and South America, countries where small capacity bikes are king. They're built for them guys, and they're built for the A2 license regs over here. Now, that's meant that we've had some really good fun, really enjoyable small sports bikes, but maybe nothing that's really given me an alternative to the old stuff for a fun road ride. Until now. When Kawasaki said they were going to make a proper 4-cylinder, small superbike, I was still dubious. I've been burnt too many times getting excited by things that turn out to be a bit wet. Within 30 seconds of getting on this thing, I knew there was nothing wet about it. This is a proper screamer of a bike with an incredible induction roar. It sounds and feels proper. And by proper I mean like a little tiny superbike, not some rattly parallel twin single cylinder thing built to keep the emissions and small license capacities happy. So it's got a properly cool engine and sounds incredible. And for me, that was one of the biggest ingredients of making me enjoy the ride. Charging out, you can actually chase all the way to the red line in multiple gears before you're in worry of being too fast for the conditions, too fast for the road, or for the speed limit. And that is what makes riding small capacity bikes for me so much fun. You get to experience the acceleration, you're charging through the rev range, every mile an hour you earn, they don't come for free. Whereas when you've got 200 horsepower,
you burp and you're doing a ton. This isn't like that. You've got to work hard to get your speed. And I find that a lot more fulfilling, especially when riding on the road. If you didn't see Chad's on-track video, check it out. There'll be a link popping up here somewhere. He covered all the specs and the sort of tech stuff of the bike originally. 77 horsepower, 190 kilos, something like that. But 3-ton smile. Now elsewhere around the bike, it's a sort of mix. It's definitely not. It's not a miniature superbike still. It's definitely not that. It doesn't have a beautiful, massive alloy frame. It's got a sort of slightly cheaper styled frame. And again, it's not got the best spec forks. It doesn't have the latest full IMU traction control ABS systems. But it does have a quick shifter, which is really nice on this sort of bike. You will be changing gear a lot. And it does have ABS and traction control, so that if you get in a bit of a pickle and hit the brakes too hard, it can save you, which is kind of ideal for this bike, particularly with the people it's aimed at. But for all the talk of what spec it's got and whether you need rider aids on a 400 or not, none of that mattered the minute I got out onto the bed. It's such a playful bike, it makes you just want to go out and ride like a hooligan. I found myself throwing it into corners, launching crests, just riding in a manner that I haven't ridden on the road for years. And not in a stupidly dangerous way or anything like that, because I mean the speeds are all way lower than it would have been on a superbike, but it just gave me such this feeling of joy to thrash the living daylights out of it, and it wanted it. It just wants to be ridden hard. That for me, I don't care how fast or slow you're going, you want a motorbike that puts a massive smile on your face. And this one has done that every step of the way today, and for 8,700 quid, and for how little fuel it drinks, how little tyres it wears out, that's a fantastic thing. I had a few little complaints with it today. One, the fact that it makes me want to ride really aggressively and fast and sporty left me a little bit annoyed with the fact that the ABS is just a basic ABS system, by which I mean there's no way to turn the rear ABS off, no sort of track mode or sport mode where you could back it in or stop it a little bit. Wouldn't let me do any of that, which I found annoying on the road and I know would be really annoying on track. Secondly, it is soft. It is not like the old 400s, which in fact the Kawasaki's were stiff as a board and horrendously uncomfortable. This is soft, it moves around a lot. Today, where the conditions have been a bit moody, that's actually been a great thing. It's given me loads of confidence. I've had loads of feel still from the tyres. It's not been vague or anything, but it's just when you started riding a bit quicker, the fork would bottom, the suspension would bounce around a little bit more. I think for sportier riding, I'd like to stiffen it up a little bit. But really, that's it as far as my criticisms have gone. It's made me want to get one and stick stiffer springs in and a cheeky exhaust and some rear sets and make a little proper race bike out of it, because I have had so much fun on it today.
If I was on a ZX-10, I'd still be having a good time. I always have a good time on a bike, but I'd be riding differently. You'd be really thinking about what the road was up to, really thinking about where you were putting the power down, and you're tickling a ZX-10 on the road. There's no two ways about it. Obviously you guys are all looking directly at my speedo right now, so I'm not going to go mental, but a ZX-10 on the road does 100 mile an hour in first gear, so you never use all of any gear, not in any real semblance of legality. So you're always trying to meter the power out, you're always trying to hold the bike back. And that doesn't mean I don't like riding those litre sports bikes on the road, because they definitely have their place. They're a lot of fun. I still adore a big fast sports bike on the road, but it's a different riding. You're very rarely behaving speed limit wise, so you've got to be so hyper aware of what's around you if you want to keep your license. And you're not riding the bike to ride the whole of the bike, you're just doing what you can where you can. Whereas getting on smaller bikes, getting on slower bikes where you have to work harder for your speed, it's so much more rewarding.
This bike has reminded me very much of the Yamaha R7 in that, the new R7 that is, in that I've absolutely loved riding it, and it's given me so much joy and excitement at a much lower price and horsepower level than the super bikes that I'm used to. I would love to have one on the road and ride it, and I would probably have as much fun on the road as I would on a super bike. And when it comes to track, I wish there was a way of doing track riding by engine size. Because the bottom line is, when you go to a track day on that, for sure you'll have an amazing time, but getting passed by thousands and 600s on the straights and then them get in the way every corner, it will get frustrating. So until that's solved, until the current track situation allows us to have a 500cc category group, a 1000cc category group, or a 600cc, it will be a frustrating track ride, but I think it's worth it for what you'll learn and how much you'll improve your riding. On top of that, if you did track days for a year on one of them, you'll do probably 2 track days to 1 set of tyres. If you do that on 1,000, I can knock out 2 rear tyres in a day without really too much effort. The cost implications of that means you'll be able to do more track time and actually more laps because you won't be so tired on that. I think it'll improve your riding. I had just as much fun. I don't know about you, but I enjoy going flat out through the corners, and every scalp you take is a massive victory for the tiny bike. Honestly, next time you're looking at bikes, next time you're test riding bikes, check your ego, forget the super high power stuff, go and try one of these. I'm not saying you should forget super bikes forever, but spend a year riding one of these and I genuinely think you'll have so much fun. You'll get wound up when your mates disappear off in the distance. It is harder work to overtake traffic, but go and find the small roads, the quiet roads, the twisty and technical roads, and spend a year, whole summer buzzing around on that thing. You'll become a better rider and you'll have a massive smile on your face. I promise. It is an absolute hoot.